Plaintiff Nina Clone says her fiancé has a child with the defendant, who has a total of 5 children with 5 men. Nina claims 2 of the defendant's children have been taken away, and her fiancé's son was put into foster care because the defendant left him with a drunk babysitter. Nina is suing the defendant because she babysat for 3 of her children and was never paid. Defendant Crystal Davison admits that she allowed Nina to babysit her children, but says she was forced to fire her because she was neglecting them by not feeding or changing them. Crystal says Nina then started making false claims against her with Child Protective Services, so she's countersuing for harassment.
Start with you.
I met the defendant in November of 2009 when I became engaged to my fiancée, Jamie, who has a 5-year-old son with her. She has a total of 5 different kids with 5 different fathers. Her oldest 2, she does not have custody of. One was adopted and the other one was placed with his father.
I'm 26.
All right. You're putting a lot of work in. 5 children?
It's a lot of work, but yet it's a lot of fun as well.
Go ahead.
Her 3 boys, who are all in the middle, including the one that is now placed with his father, were taken away in 2007 in November. They were taken away because they were left with an intoxicated caregiver when my fiancé had told me that she had left town and the police and social services could not get a hold of her. After meeting with her and getting to know her, I've been noticing that she is being abused myself for most of my childhood. She yells and screams at her kids to do things. She yells at them and she don't talk to them. She yells at them to look for a cab when she's getting ready for work, and they don't do it, and so she yells and screams, and they're not going to do nothing. Again? 3.5, 5, and the youngest is 1.5 years.
And who is supposed to order the cab for her?
She has a set time for a cab, but she has the kids look out the window. She yells at the kids to look out the window.
If they can't flag the cab down,
they don't
get
look
a
out the window.
The 3 and 1 year old.
Oh.
I can't even get a cab.
Right. It's out of the 1-year-old.
She wants them to look out the window to tell her when the cab's there, but they don't do it because she yells at them to do it. The things that she yelled at them to do, they're not going to do because they're being yelled at.
No, they're not going to do because they can't figure out how to do it.
That too.
Give me some background, ma'am.
Well, first of all, Your Honor, she did come into the picture in about November of 2009 last year. She has done absolutely nothing but cause problems for me. She has tried to report me to child services for things like I supposedly beat my children, threatened to hurt them, threatened to kill them, let them play in the road.
You're already in the road grabbing that cab.
Right.
No, what that is every morning I take a cab to work and they know what the cab looks like. They've been in the cabs with me before. And what the boys do, I'll ask them if they look and say, Mommy, your cab is here. They know what they're doing.
And if they don't, you yell at them, ma'am, and scream at them. That's what she says.
No, I do not yell and scream at them.
I've been there when she's yelled and screamed at them when she's putting makeup on.
Also,
you have a temperament problem, anger issues?
No.
You don't do any of this?
No, I do not.
You're saying that she calls Child Protective Services on you illegitimately?
Yeah.
What about the removal of your child? Did that ever happen?
It happened for the same exact reason as why I am here today, for an unfit caregiver. He was not intoxicated when I had the children in their care. I went to a friend's house one night and I told him I'd be back right away in the morning because it was an overnight type of deal. And he said, okay, that's fine.
I'm sure, right. Looking for number 6. Go ahead.
When I came home in the morning, he said, I walked in the door, he said, you're going to be mad. Why? Because your kids are gone. What happened? And I had found out in the report that was filed by Child Services that he was intoxicated that morning. He was not intoxicated when I left. The man had watched my kids before. That's why I thought it was okay.
That's the sole reason they've ever removed any children from your home.
That is the sole reason, because of him, not because of me. They removed
all 3 of your children because someone babysat them who was drunk.
Yeah, but he was not drunk when I left him with my kids because he had babysat my children before, so I thought it would have been okay. They weren't taken from me because of something I did. They were taken from me because of something someone else
No,
did.
they were taken from you because they believe you were negligent in leaving your child home with someone who was not reliable or someone that you did not know well enough to understand that your children would be at risk. That's why they took them from you, if that's the only reason. Let's get to the babysitting, ma'am. When did you begin babysitting and what was the agreement?
I began babysitting on March 4th. The agreement is that I knew she couldn't pay a lot, and so she could pay me each payday. So I had been paid on the...
What was the agreement? Not when you were paid, but what?
The agreement was that she could pay me each payday, however much she could pay me towards babysitting.
That's not a good agreement. So it's going to be hard to determine how much you're owed. That's my point. And when did it end?
It ended on March 26th.
Okay. Ma'am, what do you want to tell me about this? She started on March 4th?
March 4th, yes, and things at first started out all right. But then for some odd reason, through the weeks of March 15th through the 22nd, things started getting a little bit not appropriate.
Like what?
To where I would get phone calls or text messages, which I have several statements here proving so that these things would happen while I was at work.
What things?
My kids weren't being changed. My kids weren't being fed. My daughter was soaking through her clothes, which she now has a rash problem because she was soaking through her clothes so many times. And my boys weren't being fed, and I know this is a fact.
That's why you discontinued her?
Yeah, because I'm not going to leave home and have my kids not taken care of.
That?
Statements?
Who were these folks that have statements? Were they there, or how did they come and find this information?
Some of them are from my coworkers at work because these were all on speakerphone and I could hear absolutely everything that was being said. There's one from my brother-in-law, whom she had an affair with and tried to do so in my home.
Who else?
There is also one from my boyfriend. There is one from a couple of neighbors that live right there.
Let me hear the ones from the neighbors. Read the portion from the neighbors and from the co-workers whom I would rely on the most. They seem the most independent.
Okay. And this is
your boyfriend is tell you anything.
Yeah.
With all them 5 kids, you know how to get him to talk. So obviously, you get him to say anything. Go ahead.
Yep. This is the one from my neighbor Jim. He lives in a couple apartments down from me. He is stating that he does know that Nina was my babysitter in the past, specifically in the month of March 2010. He does know that Nina was staying at my home rent-free.
Read the part where he says he somehow is a witness to the things you say she neglected to do for your children.
I would go, it's,
you can't read
he
it?
says that he also wanted to state that he knows I was starting to have problems with her because I would go and talk to him specifically about what problems were going on. And that I would tell him that the kids weren't being taken care of.
Not reading, you're looking at me talking. Let me get back to you, ma'am. I asked you to read it, and you looked up and started giving me some summation. Look for a couple of sentences where he says he knows she was neglecting your children based on something he saw, something you told him, and something specific. Ma'am, what do you say about the neglect that she alleges?
First of all, I've only called her twice at work. She always would call or text me when the
What
kids were
about the
babysitting.
allegations of neglect? Is this the first time you've heard them?
No, this is not.
Okay, when did you first hear about it?
I first heard about it when she had me served with a restraining order.
Why did she have to place a restraining order on you?
She claimed that I had threatened her verbally on the phone and on paper.
What happened at the hearing?
She could not prove the evidence. So I have evidence stating from the court that it was dismissed.
Okay, they gave you a temporary one, and at the hearing, the permanent one was dismissed.
Yes.
All right. And do you have that quote yet?
Yes. That I would also like to state that I know Crystal was starting to have problems with Nina about how Nina was not taking care of the kids very well by not changing the daughter.
Why are you looking at me? Go and outline
I'm sorry,
it.
it's a
Go
habit.
and outline it.
It's a
so
habit,
that I can
I'm
read
sorry.
it myself, because you keep looking up
It doesn't
as if you're
specifically-
paraphrasing it, ma'am. And with regard to your money, when you ask for your babysitting fees, what have you been told?
That she would have to wait because all her bills came out of the April 5th check, which I had just asked basically for $60 so I can keep my cell phone and gas
All right.
for her son's sake.
You have it? And tell me about, ma'am, why aren't you paying her
The reason why I'm not paying her
other than you believed she neglected
that she was
your-
neglecting the kids, and she stayed at my home rent-free from the March 15th to March 22nd, free of charge.
Did you agree to stay for free in exchange for babysitting for free?
Not at the time that we discussed the monetary
Did you
amount.
all discuss it later?
It was brought up when on the 15th.
Did you agree to it later?
No.
By the way, there are no specific allegations about the neglect as you kept acting like you were reading. Go ahead, ma'am. What other evidence do you have?
I also have a paper here that is in her handwriting, filing for physical placement of my son, which she has no right to be
How's
doing.
that relevant today?
That is why,
Is that part of your harassment?
yes,
Okay. What was the result on this case you're suing her about?
the result on the,
Let me give it back to you.
Sorry.
You are
forgot what I
countersuing
gave you, I'm
her
sorry.
for harassment based on an allegation contained in that statement.
Mm-hmm.
What was the result of that?
I gained sole custody of my son because I do not want him around her.
So her complaint was rejected?
Yeah.
Both your cases are dismissed. Neither of you can convince me of anything. You all seem very unprepared to prove your cases today. Therefore, I can't grant them. You have a burden of proving by a preponderance of the evidence that what you're saying is true. You haven't been able to convince me. Your testimony is sketchy and incomplete, as is hers. So I'm going to dismiss both your cases. No one proved anything today. Have a good day.
Anything to do with her because I'm sick and tired of coming home from work every day wondering if she's going to feed child services some other lie to try to get my kids taken away.
I don't lie. The things I told the child services are true, and I'm working on getting the reports for them so I have them for further data use.